Hey guys, I wish this video was happier. I honestly wasn't sure if I was gonna post anything, because I've honestly been trying to avoid social media right now because it's just so overwhelmingly depressing and upsetting. But at the same time, I have so much to say that I didn't really want to hold it in. I think that I need to get it out, and I thought that if this could help maybe one person out there who's grown up in a situation similar to mine, or I don't know, just make somebody feel a little bit more heard, then that at least is some sort of benefit from this. But today I wanted to talk about my feelings on everything going on with Roe v. Wade getting overturned, and just kind of how long this has been an issue and the what ifs. So I'm just gonna get right into it. I mean, off the bat, if you didn't know already, I am pro-choice. I've been pro-choice for a while, but for a long time in my life, was pro-life. I grew up in a religious household. I think I brought this up probably in my last video. In fact, I know I did. And, that was a huge thing growing up. I was always drilled into my head, growing up, raised as a girl in a religious household, was, that we don't believe in abortions, we don't get them. And my parents were extremely strict on it, even in cases of like assault or like an incest situation. They believe every baby is a miracle, like from God, and a blessing. And you were meant to be a parent if God chose that right then you were going to have a baby. And I mean, when you're young, you don't realize stuff like that is just so messed up to say. So I went along with it. I actually was very outspokenly pro-life for a long time. Like, I can remember being a literal child, like being like 11, 12 years old, and literally I ran an abortion page, an anti-abortion page on Facebook. And I would just post all the time about how, God wants you to have a baby, you're meant to be a parent. If, you can't be a parent at that time, adoption is what you should do, but you should always carry the baby, and, you should just be so happy, be so grateful, make the best out of a situation if it was something bad, if it came out of an assault situation. And, my parents were super supportive. They were so proud of me for making it, which again, just is so, so messed up that was something that I cared so deeply about as like a 12-year-old girl. Because it was just so drilled into my head. Like I would constantly say like, oh, well, if I ever am in a situation where it's like me or if I'm pregnant and it's me or the baby that has to like die, I would choose like myself, have the baby be born, and, I'll die. But, I think anyone outside of this ultra religious standpoint can see that that is a really messed up way of thinking. I think even if you are pro-life, there's so many people that would be like, that is very extreme. And I eventually ended up leaving the page. I actually ended up having it kind of like go, I don't want to say viral, but it became very popular because I met like other people on Facebook who were all like grown adults. And someone was saying, that the page there was another page that had the same name because it was a pretty basic name. I think it was like Say No to Abortion. And they were saying, oh, well, someone else has a page called that, and you should merge your pages together because they were like an adult, they were more outspoken, they could get more attention from it. So we merged pages. I eventually, a few years later, I think around the time that I was around 15, left the page. I just completely blocked everyone. I stopped being like an admin for the page. I was done with it because they started posting a lot of stuff about they started victim blaming people who had miscarriages, and that really set me off because like that's something very close to my heart. I mean, I personally had a sibling who was supposed to be here, but unfortunately died in a miscarriage that my mom had. Like, I've known so many people in my life that have had it. I mean, it's awful. It's a horrible thing. So that automatically was something I was like, no. They also started posting things comparing abortion to like the modern day Holocaust. That set me off really bad. You know, I might have been naive and very brainwashed by a lot of like ultra Christian, ultra like conservative stuff, but even I knew that that was messed up at that time. That was when I was starting to kind of, you know, realize things for myself. And I still identified for pro-life for a few more years. I think around the time I was like 16 or 17 was when I was finally like, yeah, I can't call myself that anymore. Like, there's too many what ifs. There's too many like just reasons why somebody would need one. It's really messed up to tell somebody that like is a victim of a sexual assault or of like incest or anything like that, that, oh, well, you should just carry your abuser's baby to term, you know, you should have it. It's a blessing. It's such a messed up thing to tell somebody because you're not in their shoes. It's so easy to say that. It's so easy. And I think that part of the reason for me was why I said it, because at the time I was 12. Like, I had just started having a period. I was not having, not to get like too TMI, but like I was not having sex with anyone. I was a virgin. I was not at all like, that wasn't anything I had to worry about. I mean, the potential was there that I could have been assaulted, but at the time, I didn't know that at all. And I was always told, like, oh, well, the statistics of people getting assaulted and it becoming pregnancy are so low anyway. Like, my parents would always tell me that. So don't let anyone use that as an excuse to be pro-choice or, like, pro-abortion and, like, demonizing them so badly. And the statistics, I don't know what they are at the exact top of my head, so I don't want to give them, but the statistics are decently high. I mean, as we've seen with like the Me Too movement, so many people, women and just like people with uteruses in general, have been victims of sexual assault. So many. It's not that rare that it could happen, and it is a horrible situation to be in, I assume. I can't even imagine what it's like, but at the time I didn't know. So I wanted to kind of make this video to talk about what it would have been like for me, kind of part of this video. I'm kind of rambling, but like I wanted to talk about that because, like I said before, I was 12 years old at the time when I got my first period. I identified as a woman still. I hadn't started my transition, didn't know I was trans yet. I could not have carried a child. And the sad thing is that being 12, I wouldn't have had a choice because I was still a child. My parents would have made me keep it, which is the really messed up part. But let's say, for example, that in this case, that's not even a factor. Like, the choice is all mine to make, basically. I would not have been able to physically carry a child. First of all, I had medical conditions and mental health conditions that were undiagnosed at the time. I suffer from depression, I suffer from anxiety, I suffer from PTSD, I have sleep apnea as well, and chronic back pain, and just a lot of things. Like, there was no way. Plus, at the time, I'm 12. Like, at 12 years old, I don't think I could have carried a baby to term anyways, even without those things. But on top of that, I think it would have been putting my health at huge risk if that had happened. On top of that, emotionally, I was not mature enough to have a baby at the time. I was, like, so dealing with such bad mental health on my own part. I was dealing with really bad like dysphoria that I didn't know about at the time. A lot of problems like sexuality crisis. There was no way. On top of that, I also didn't grow up in a rich household. Like, my parents struggled to keep food on the table for the three of us, pay bills. Like, it was constantly a struggle. There's no way they would have financially been able to support another child. On top of that, 12 years old, I was in middle school. I was literally in like 7th grade, I think. I could not have balanced going to school and taking care of a baby. There's not a chance of it, even with my parents' help. which I don't know how much of that I would have had because my mom worked constantly to pay for things, and my dad was either like emotionally unavailable or dealing with his own problems. Also, kind of random, but my dad was essentially a chain smoker growing up, and he smoked inside all the time, which is already bad enough for me to be around, but around another baby, that's horrible. Like, the baby could have had so many health problems that, like, I just shouldn't have had to deal with. Like, that shouldn't, I would not want to bring a baby into this world when there's things that are preventable, that um a baby could have a good life that I couldn't give it, like I genuinely couldn't give a baby those kind of things that it would have needed. On top of that, I really don't know if I would have graduated high school. I don't know if I would have made the friends that I had. I definitely wouldn't have been able to afford moving out on my own at like the age of 18. Like, I don't know if I would have gone to college. I don't even know. I would have had to grow up really freaking fast. And in a lot of ways, I think I'm still growing up now, even at the age of 20. Like, I'm still learning things, developing as an adult, having to, like, go against trauma that I've learned, or, like, repressing memories and, like, age regression kind of stuff that I don't even think I could handle having a baby now. I definitely couldn't then. Even now, if I had a baby, I'm lucky enough that right now I live in Illinois, where it's very unlikely that abortion would get completely overturned. Like, we've had abortion since before Roe v. Wade even happened. I think it's very unlikely. So in that sense, I'm safe being in this state. But let's say that I wasn't in this state. Let's say I'm a state over in Indiana where they're currently working on banning abortion. Now, I still would not be able to. I financially cannot support having a baby. Time-wise, there's no way. I work a part-time job. I go to college. I also already have 2 pets that take up a majority of my own time. There's no way I'd be able to handle that. On top of that, I still have health problems. I now take antidepressants and anti-anxiety medication. I'd have to completely stop taking that to have a baby. That would put me in greater risk of, hurting myself or having really bad mental health on top of, like, whatever hormone level changes were happening through pregnancy. Plus, on top of that, the biggest thing, I've been taking testosterone now for well over a year. And if I were to get pregnant, first of all, likely wouldn't know for a while. So if I was living in a state where they did allow abortion, but it was like nothing after 6 weeks, there's no way I would know about it because I don't have a period anymore, which would probably be the first thing for me to think something's up and get a pregnancy test. So I likely wouldn't even know that I'm pregnant. On top of that, taking testosterone while you're pregnant is extremely dangerous to the fetus. I mean, it can cause you to have a miscarriage, but if it doesn't, it can cause really bad health problems, really bad developmental problems for a fetus. So again, there's that, where if I didn't know I was pregnant for a while, having that go to the baby, super dangerous. And then if I did and I had to keep that pregnancy, I would have to go off of testosterone. That would cause, first of all, very big hormonal changes for me, because all of a sudden I would just have this excess of estrogen on top of whatever pregnancy hormones I have. I'm not taking any of my medications that are helping me. I'm now not taking my testosterone. That would cause me a lot of gender dysphoria and body changes that I don't know how I would feel or deal with. There's no way I could handle having a baby right now at all. Again, I still probably wouldn't make it through college if I did. I don't have a stable partner. I mean, I have good friends around me, but none of them are prepared to raise a child, and they also shouldn't have to deal with that. I don't want children now. I now, after this, don't think that I want children in the future. I was kind of on the fence, and unfortunately this news like made a decision for me that I don't think I ever want to have children. anymore, because I can't raise kids in this kind of environment, personally. Like, that's just not something I can do. Don't I don't need that. I'm now thinking of possible ways in the future to have my tubes tied, or to have just like a full hysterectomy. That was something I was never considering, but I mean, if I ever want the freedom to move somewhere else later on, I would like to have control, that I know that I'm not going to get pregnant. I know that this isn't an issue, and it sucks. It sucks so bad, but it goes so much farther than me, and it goes so much farther than abortion, as I feel like a lot of people have heard. But I mean, Roe versus Wade is just the beginning. There's so many court cases. There's already been one of the judges that has said already that they want to look into cases of contraceptives, of gay marriage, gay relationships. I mean, it could threaten my own gender identity now, my transition. Like, again, like I said before, I am very lucky to live in a blue state, and also in a very like liberal minded city. But that doesn't mean that I'm 100% safe, and even if I'm safe, there are so many people that aren't safe, and that sucks. That's horrible. It also goes farther than just abortion. I've heard a lot of people, pro-life people, try to, say, well, it's just abortion. But on top of that, top of the various reasons someone could need an abortion, it also goes so much farther, because if you have a miscarriage now, in a lot of those states, you could be prosecuted for something that is completely out of your control, something that's already traumatic and so hard to go through. Now you can be prosecuted for it, is insane to me. Ectopic pregnancy, which is when a fetus develops like in one of your fallopian tubes instead of moving down, is literally fatal if it does not get treated. You cannot have a baby. It will just eventually get bigger until it bursts, and you will die, and obviously so will the fetus. But now that abortion is being taken away, if you had that happen to you in one of those states, you would have to make the decision of, I'm gonna die. And it wouldn't even be, I'm using the words make the decision, but it wouldn't even be your decision. You'd have to literally just be coming to terms with the fact that you were going to die, because that would be taken away as well. It's so much more than abortion. On top of the fact that they're making abortion a felony. Felons also cannot vote, is a huge issue for voting, misogyny. It's awful. On top of that, it also really sucks being a trans man right now too, because I've heard so much about, like, this is women's rights, her body, her choice, which obviously that's all very true. But on top of that, it's not just her, it's also, the trans guy, it's the non-binary, the gender fluid, the intersex person. It's all of these people who can also get pregnant, who don't identify as cis women, who are also unfortunately getting left out of a lot of conversations, which sucks, because they're also at super high risks. They're also at risk of having the same things happen to them. It sucks being left out, and it's hard because I never want to talk over women's experiences at all, because I can't even imagine that. I am lucky I'm not facing like misogyny, but also it does affect me. I do have a uterus. I do have a right to have control over my body, and I do have a right to also be part of the conversation and have my voice heard. So it sucks kind of feeling like I can't have a voice. I know that I can, but it's hard because part of me does feel guilty, because I feel like I'm talking over women's voices, but I know that I'm not, so it's just kind of a confusing battle. But now it just sucks because I feel like I'm having to educate, my parents who are still very pro-life, and other parts of my family who are, that it's okay for you to be pro-life for your own body. If you never want to have an abortion, you'll never do that to yourself. Good for you, amazing. But the point is that you should have the choice for that to be what you decide to do. You shouldn't be forced into it. And other people should also have the right to their own body to do with it what they choose to do, whether that be keep the baby, have the baby, whether that be to even have their tubes tied or have a hysterectomy. I mean, even that is so hard to do in this country because, it's permanent. And, what if you want to have kids? Kids are so amazing. It's drilled into like people's heads that can have kids. Oh, well, you should have kids, because that's like your lot in life. And it just sucks because I previously, before this, have been questioning my kind of religious status of identifying as like a Christian, and obviously already having so many conundrums, I think I'm using that word correctly, with so many things that like the Bible says and that Christianity teaches against, like gay people and trans people and all these things. But now on top of that, I'm thinking that I just can't even really be comfortable with that label anymore personally, because seeing what Christianity is doing to this country and how it is turning into, this is not a choice anymore of religion, and this is how things are going to be, and we're going to force everyone to believe these things and brainwash everyone, is terrifying. It is so terrifying. It feels like a utopian book that I would have read in like high school or something. Like, it doesn't feel like it's real and that it's 2020 and that this is happening in America. It feels like some kind of book where you could finish it and that was over and go back to, your own life. But unfortunately, it's real life, and it's so scary to think that this stuff is happening. So I can't live with myself with identifying with that anymore. So that's been a personal kind of journey that I've been having to deal with right now over the past few days. But it's just been so hard. I'm beyond sad. I'm beyond angry. I'm beyond tired. I'm just so over having to fight for rights that should have already existed so long ago, and some did already exist long ago, and now old white conservative men, I mean one of them is not white, but old men who do not have uteruses, do not have to worry about getting pregnant, do not have to bear the pain of childbirth, the health problems of pregnancy, the risk of having a miscarriage, anything like that, are the ones making decisions on people with uteruses bodies. It's insane to me. I mean, I know at least one has been accused of sexual assault. I don't remember if any of the other ones have, but I mean, literally right there, you just see how right now the rights of cis men are being, cared about more than anyone who can get pregnant, anyone that could have a child right now. And I also wanted to say one quick thing on the whole adoption argument, because that was another thing I got told growing up, and that's one thing I've been hearing a lot now too, is like, oh well, if you hate abortion, so if you don't want to have a baby right now, just give it up for adoption. But like, I can't speak for all of the foster system. I have no idea. I'm not adopted, but the foster system in the United States is so many levels of fucked up. It is so beyond messed up. There's so many cases of mistreatment, abuse, neglect, like sexual assault also still exists, like incest, stuff like that. It's horrible. It's not a better life at all. And people like to, pro-life people to be specific, like to make it out that that is like such a way out and such a like golden and beautiful idea of like, oh well, at least have the children. And there's so many children in the foster system that don't have homes, that don't have loving parents already. Why do more people need to be brought into that? They didn't ask to be there. The person having them didn't ask to have that baby, clearly does not want to have that baby. Why should they have to? Why should anyone have to be brought into it? And I'm so sick of all the arguments of like, the baby could have cured cancer or like shit like that. Like, it's a dumb argument. It's such a big what if that you don't even know. And also, even so, that person shouldn't have to go through having a life of not being financially cared for, or like mentally or physically being cared for properly because whoever had them wasn't ready to have a baby or didn't want to have a baby. It's just ridiculous. It's a stupid argument. And the biggest argument that's been pissing me off so much right now that I could like legitimately scream at someone if I heard them say it to me in real life is the whole like, well, if you don't want to have a kid, then don't have sex. Like, that argument is such bullshit. It is the dumbest argument because, first of all, not everyone who gets pregnant chooses to have sex. Simple as that. Some people, and also just like, it's such a, I didn't realize I didn't finish my thought. Like, but some people, are using birth control to try to not have that happen, and birth control isn't always perfect and doesn't always work. But on top of that, that's such a messed up argument to say because, again, if cis men could get pregnant, would we be having this conversation? Likely no, because obviously society caters to them more. And it's just such a messed up idea because no one is telling cis men or people that have the capability to get people pregnant. I'm saying cis men because that's pretty much just cis men who feel, that they are out of this conversation. It's just so ridiculous because no one is telling them don't have sex. No one's telling them that that's not something they should do. But anyone who can get pregnant, oh, well, if you don't have a baby, then don't have sex. Simple as that. But it's not as simple as that. And you shouldn't have to make a decision. You're a human being. You're allowed to do what you want with your body without having to face the consequence of literally having to birth and raise another human being. I'm just boggled by the fact, bewildered, I don't know, even by the fact that this is an argument that we're still having. I'm so sick of it. I'm so sick and tired of hearing about it on social media. And I mean that in the sense of hearing that this is even an issue. Obviously, I still want to hear about people's experiences and stories. I'm not sick of that part, but I'm sick of this having to be a conversation that we even have to have in 2022. Like, it's just ridiculous. It's so sad. My heart goes out to anybody who lives in a state that is experiencing something like this, or they're having a baby and realizing, that now their child is going to have to deal with these things. My heart goes out to you because I can't even imagine having to deal with that. I'm so grateful to be where I am right now and be safe. And I wish that I could do more. I want to try to do more into helping anyone that I could. If somebody, I've been seeing a lot of people talk about, taking people in for like a camping trip in states where abortion is still legal. And I 100%, if someone's watching this video and they are going through something like that, like, reach out to me. I don't have much, but if I could help somebody in a situation like that, I would do anything that I could, because that's a horrible situation to be in, and no one should have to be forced to give birth. So, yeah. Basically, the moral of the story is this country is fucked up, going back in time, and it really sucks having a uterus right now in America. So, if you don't have a uterus and you're watching this, support the people in your lives who do. Comfort them, help them any way that you can. Help fight for us who do. Get out there and protest if you can. Call, local politicians, write letters, spread awareness of contraception, of Plan C pills. There's also Plan B, but I know that only works if you're under a certain weight limit. So again, fat people do not have as many choices when it comes to that kind of thing as skinny people do, which is unfortunate. But I know Plan C pills, I think, are more effective in other cases like that. So just help other people out there, and also support yourself. I've been trying to take breaks off of social media because as much as I like learning and trying to be aware and trying to help as much as I can, I also have to think about my own mental health, and I need to take breaks where I'm not hearing, bad news, hearing all this all the time. So remember to do that for yourself too, because it can be rough. Um, that's pretty much all I have to say, but hoping my next video will be happier topics, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.